topic I'd like to talk about in this video is the importance of hand-eye coordination and balance. My entire life I've been working at different sorts of balance and coordination activities. At an early age I learned how to juggle. I also learned how to ride a unicycle. Later on I learned how to walk a slack cable. And all of these things have greatly helped me in a lot of my ability to do tree work. I mean, think about it. You're walking on limbs. Granted, you've got a rope above you, but if you can walk comfortably on a limb without fear of falling off, regardless of the rope, you're going to go a lot smoother. Fences in backyards. I mean, I think nothing about jumping up on a fence and walking down the length of the fence to clear things between the 2 yards. Even at my age, I still do it. But it's only because of a lot of the skills that I picked up when I was younger, and I've maintained them. Well, recently I've had a good friend of mine, one of my oldest friends, Dan Menendez. He's staying with me for a couple of weeks. He's got a juggling gig. He's a professional juggler. Believe it or not, I've got a good friend who's made his entire life career, 40 years, as a professional juggler. Anyway, he's doing a gig over there at the boardwalk in Santa Cruz, and I'm letting him stay here for a while. And he's leaving tomorrow, so I said, Dan, we've got to do some juggling together. I used to juggle a lot more. I honestly haven't done it in a while, so I tried to get out there and re-establish those skills. So what I'm talking about a little bit today is finding that space. And I secretly recorded Dan. I turned on my phone when he didn't really, and I asked him some questions. I asked him a lot of things about, why are you so capable? How do you juggle? How do you do it consistently? He's 61 years old and he still makes a living doing these incredible, amazing feats. So we went out and we practiced for a while. I was dropping, he was dropping, he's warming up for a show, but I think you'll find this interesting. It's not directly related with tree work, but it kind of is. So let me introduce you to the one, the only, the amazing Daniel Menendez.
Like every throw in juggling, you are actually thinking about it. And if you don't, it's going to go all over the place.
Right.
So you have to be in the moment. But you also have to have done it enough times that you have the right technique, so that it's safe, that you don't drop. So you would never tell someone to juggle torches that has never juggled clubs.
Right.
You would never do that. That'd be crazy.
You got to move up to it.
Yeah.
But just getting that the three balls down, like watching Kyle there, he couldn't get that evenness. He couldn't get the...
No, because there's a lot of the skill is something that's you're not thinking about doing it because your brain has made that part automatic. It's the throw that goes just to there and to there every time. That's automatic. You're not going, I'm going to throw it to there every time. You're just doing it, right? But you are thinking about juggling. You are concentrating on juggling. So the technique, you have to know the technique intuitively. You have to know that, but you have to be thinking about what you're doing all the time. Every second you're thinking about what you're doing. You can't just be somewhere else. You have to be there every second. And that's the in the moment part. The technique part, a lot of it is automatic. You've done it so many times that it's in the groove. It's a groove. And I think
that's a good way of putting it. Once you get in that groove, then you can kind of sit back and relax and just keep doing it. But it's like when I started doing the clubs today, I kept dropping and dropping and dropping until I fine-tuned that one little spot, and it was like, okay, I'm back at it. And if I did it for another half hour, I'd be able to go for...
So I think the way you apply it to what you're doing is you don't have someone who's, for the first time, do something that's dangerous.
Right.
You don't do that. You don't take some rookie and you have someone who knows what they're doing and can stay in the moment. Is not distracted about, they've got problems with their wife or whatever. That kind of stuff is the worst thing.
That's
like when
what
my
gets people
son
hurt.
was having problems, my juggling went all to hell. I was completely
And he dropped
distracted by that. I mean, that
Right.
was taking everything I had, was dealing with that. And so my juggling was just a mess. So that's the part that's being in the moment, being in the juggling moment, or being in the tree work moment. You have to be in the moment all the time. But there's the skill, which comes with experience, that is automatic. That part is just there. You don't have to think about it.
I think tree work's the same way.
Oh yeah.
You know,
You need skill.
working with a chainsaw, even starting a chainsaw, that becomes an automatic procedure. And if you don't do it exactly right every single time, you flood it, you choke it out. And when you first start it, there's like a little set of steps that you got to go through. If it doesn't start, you choke it. You don't want to run it 3 times when you choke it. You want to just choke it once and then put it back, and then it starts. Then you've got to clear it, and then you can go to work.
But you're not thinking about the motor part of that when you're doing it. It's automatic. You've done that so many times that's just. But you're not thinking about, I've got to get pizza tonight for the kids and that.
Yeah.
That's the last thing you want to be doing. You need to be there. All of your mind needs to be there. And what it's doing is it's taking that part of your brain that you've reserved for chainsaw starting. You have a little tiny part. That's what I was saying. If you were to look at your brain when you're doing the clubs,
Right.
it's shutting off your trees areas and
I
your
can't believe you did it
family
twice.
areas and what stuff that you're thinking about. All that part of your brain is shutting down. It's on because you haven't been juggling.
Right.
And you started to juggle, and then your brain was starting to go, I remember when we were doing this. We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. We just need this little part right here, because that's what we use when we do that, and it's still there. But there's a bunch of stuff in the way that's kind of grown. It really is growing like connections in your head. It's getting better. It's getting there.
Okay, with my site being called Arboristblairglenn, and the topic that I always deal with is trees, how does juggling and balance and hand-eye coordination relate to tree work? Well, I think it's fairly obvious, but if you do tree work and you get into a situation where your coordination and your timing and reaching out and grabbing that branch just before it falls, or being constantly aware of that pine cone that's coming out of the tree, it's kind of like a sixth sense. It's being able to perceive and be aware of what's happening. Now, with juggling, it's a skill that you learn. It's a skill that you develop, and a lot of the same ability goes towards anything, any kind of a skill occupation. And I think you'll be able to relate. There's a lot of analogies that I'm talking about in this whole video, and I hope you get it. I hope you understand. And even if you don't do tree work, I think you're going to enjoy what we've got coming up next. So, for the final part of my video production here, this presentation, I'm going to go way, way back in time. I'm going to talk a little bit about Danny. When we were kids, some kids would say, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a firefighter. Danny, when he was 10 years old, stated publicly more than once, I want to be on Johnny Carson. And everybody says, what? This is before he knew how to juggle, before he was really serious about it. And that was like a lifetime mantra to him, to be on Johnny Carson. Now, if you don't know who Johnny Carson was, he was the original nighttime talk show host that made or broke careers. And Daniel Menendez was on Johnny Carson 3 times. He was on Jay Leno, Ellen DeGeneres, many, many times. So I pulled out of the archives an old bit of footage here from the Johnny Carson show. So I think you're going to enjoy this. This is from the early 80s. Dan, go ahead. Say it on camera. Who taught you how to juggle?
Blair, I walked outside and Blair came by on a unicycle juggling 3 balls. And I went, hey, I'm going to do that.
In Atlantic City at Resorts International, May 18th through June 17th, opening for Miss Phyllis Diller. Would you welcome Daniel Menendez? Daniel?
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to start out with a very difficult trick. I'm going to attempt to catch this ball on my ear. That's this ball on this ear. Keep your eye on that pink ball. It's right here. We'll shuffle them up. Because it happens real... Wrong ear, sorry. Wrong ball. You know, I practiced this so much it wore my hair away. That's not funny. And now the hard part. That's not it. No, that's not it. No, it's not it. Here we go with the hard part. That's it. That's 3 balls. Thank you very much. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. That's your basic juggling, but I'm going to take juggling a step further right now. On the world's only bounce piano. I don't actually juggle pianos, but I've got this bounce piano. I think Beethoven just rolled over in his grave. And now the 5-ball song. I'm working on Flight of the Bumblebee. Okay, that was Axel F. in memory of Axel. Okay, well, I got to kind of build to a big finish here. This is my...
Great stuff. We'll be back in a moment.